Welcome, everyone. It's Katie DePaola, founder of Inner Glow Circle here. And today I'm so excited. You guys can't see, but I can see Debra sitting here dancing. So I know she's excited too. I'm going to interview my friend and colleague, Debra Alfarone. Welcome, Debra.
This is so exciting. This is going to be so much fun. So just buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up, people. We're so excited to have you. So Debra is a complete all-star. She has a really interesting and extensive resume. I'll share a few things and then we'll get even deeper into it. But she's an Edward R. Murrow, an Emmy award-winning network TV correspondent. She reports from the White House and the US Capitol. Last night / this morning, she was at both. She works for CBS News, and she's actually a former high school dropout, which is a really interesting part of her story that she's been so brave to be super transparent about. Her mission in life is to empower people to use their voices powerfully so that they can be heard.
Wow. I love hearing somebody else talk about what I do or who I am, because it gives you a different perspective.
Yeah.
We're the same old people we were when we were kids. Like, I got up this morning, I had some Cheerios, I threw a banana in, I walked my dog. But to hear that, I'm like, ooh, I really—
You're like, I love this person. Let's clap for her.
Let's hang out with her.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
So Debra, alongside your news and TV career, you've used your expertise to start your own company. Can you tell us what's your company called and what is your main mission and focus for your business?
Well, it kind of comes out of being a journalist. So that was a lifelong dream. Although as a high school dropout, I didn't know if I could ever achieve that dream. We'll get to that in a bit. So my company is called Debra Alfarone Media. I know, really, really original. But what I do is I'm a coach and I help people figure out what their message is, own it, figure out how to get it across to people, because we all know people who talk a lot and you never know what exactly they're saying. And it kind of sounds like this. No, we get people excited about how to share their message. And so I coach journalists, I coach entrepreneurs, I coach experts, anyone with a mission and a message to say it powerfully. And it comes out of me being a journalist because I know how it is to share people's stories. And when I do amplify someone's story, whether it be a mom who's, thinking, do I get my kid vaccinated? Or it's a nurse who's overworked, or it's someone with a disability who wants to be heard and isn't heard. That just gives me life. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help people get their messages across. And so it just seemed like a really normal extension of being a journalist to continue to do that.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And you're also getting ready to launch a book, or you're working on your book and a podcast with a shared name, right?
Yeah. As you know, not easy. None of these things are easy.
No.
I'm hearing you say what I'm doing and I'm going, wow, I'm exhausted hearing it. So how the heck am I getting it done? But yeah, so what happens is I've been coaching people for a while, and most of my clients are young women in their 20s who want to ask their boss for a raise, or they want to become a network TV correspondent. So a lot of them are on-air journalists in small markets across the country. And I realized I'm coaching them not just on how to say things in a powerful way, how to use your voice, how to tell a story, but it's all life stuff.
Right.
Don't all need to know how to ask for things. So it became, can I curse on this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's X-rated podcast.
Ooh, this is getting more interesting by the second. So yeah, the book, the podcast, the series, the videos, it's all called Shit I Wish I Knew in My 20s. Because let me tell you, I did not know jack in my 20s. And if I had a me, who knows what I'd be right now.
I love it. I always say your first and most important client is yourself. And that as coaches, like going back and looking at how we've worked with ourselves, especially in the moments where we didn't have a mentor, or we didn't have a parent, or we didn't have someone who could, grab our hand and walk us and show us the way, which so many of us haven't. A lot of our mentors have been like people whose podcasts we've listened to or books we've read. And, we've had to surround ourselves with these mentors that maybe don't even know who we are, but we know who they are. And that's so cool. I love that you've become that for so many people. How did you come up with the title? Because it's so catchy. Did it just come to you one day or what?
Thank you. Thank you. I love that. Well, I mean, I've always been, I mean, it's actually, I was just kidding around with a colleague of mine. I am not the kind of buttoned up White House correspondent you'll see. I like to just say it like it is. So I'm not a person who's going to use lots of big words and tell you what's happening, and no. And so sometimes I just speak the way I speak. And that's kind of how it came out. It's like, man, this is some shit I wish I knew in my 20s. But like it just came out of talking.
Yeah.
I always say I wish I could give my reports the way I speak, like, shit's about to get real over here, but I can't do that. I can do that for your podcast, but that's just kind of how I speak.
Right. But it's so amazing that you have this other outlet. So a lot of the people that we interview on Six Figure Certified Coach are women who have one career and then also have another with coaching, right? And they've been doing these things parallel, and sometimes they end up going all in on their coaching business or something like that. But one thing we talk about a lot is how important it is for those of us who want to have a voice in the world to have a platform to be able to be ourselves and talk the way that we talk and say the things that we have to say. And when you work in news, like, sure, of course, you're bringing your personality and your touch and your angle and your approach, and people hire you because of who you are. But I would imagine that having your coaching business has also given you a place to share even more of yourself.
I am exactly who I am with my kids. I call them kids. My goodness, they're probably gonna be mad at me for that. I am exactly who I am with my clients.
I thought you were going to say your kids meaning your dogs.
Well,
you're the same with your dogs as you are with your clients.
No, if I was the way I was with my dogs, with my clients, they would think that there's something wrong with me because I sing to them, I talk to my dogs.
I can actually attest to that. Yeah. That's funny.
Do you make up songs about your dogs? I'm like, look at you, you're so cute. And then 10 minutes later, you're down a freestyle road. But I think, what was the question? What's gonna happen with us, Katie?
I just was asking, like, what does it feel like for you to be able to have your own voice and your own platform outside of your career path and these news channels? I would think that for someone like you who's so dedicated to people having a voice in the world, it's been so necessary for you to really have your own voice.
Great question. And yes, I can't imagine not having my coaching clients and my coaching business. And it's funny because when you do something that is as high profile as being a network correspondent, people think that's what you do and that's all you do. And so I don't think even the people I work with on a day-to-day basis know the extent to which my business is filling my soul and successful.
Yeah, such a part of your life.
Yeah, and I don't really market it as much as I should. People just gravitate towards me, and they gravitate towards me because they know who I am. They see who I'm being, right? So it's who you're being. And on Instagram, on TikTok, I am being someone who was a high school dropout, who ended up with the job of a lifetime. And I'm ready to share how I did that. I'm sharing the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm sharing that I worked a 17-hour day yesterday, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah.
And then people gravitate towards you because you're being transparent. And transparency, as you know, when you're being transparent and vulnerable, people connect to you.
So how long have you been a journalist?
Oh, wow. Probably 15 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at what point did you realize that you were also a natural coach?
Oh, well, of course, I have to give all of the credit to you because you really helped me, but I'm going to get to that.
But before that, Debra,
Okay, no.
Like at what point were you like, I really actually enjoy mentoring people and this is a natural thing for me? Because, most people that go through our coaching certification, a very common sentiment across the board is like, I've always been a coach. And one of the biggest things one of the biggest hurdles that people have to get over is this idea, like, this is just me. I'm just being myself. Wait, now you want me to go charge people 150, 200, $300 an hour to talk to them? Like, but I'm always doing that. I don't know. Like, I'm sure you've told me at some point, but I'm just so curious. Like, at what point were you like, I enjoy furthering my own career, but I also enjoy coaching others. And were there any moments that stood out where you're like, I really like mentoring and coaching?
I've always been the person that people gravitated to at work. At
Mm,
stations I've worked at, and I've worked at stations in Connecticut, local stations in Connecticut, New York, also in DC, and people
mm-hmm,
are always around my desk. In fact, at one point I had this
mm.
special project, a story I had to write, and my boss, she happened to have like a red, not a red carpet, but like a red stanchion, when you like do a walk and repeat kind of a thing at a big
Oh
event.
yeah,
She
yeah,
had
yeah.
one
So
of those. She put it outside my desk. She's like, you're not allowed to go in there and talk to her until she's done writing this, because people are always coming to my desk. And
mm,
in TV, there's a lot of busy, 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 but there's a lot of stand around and wait. And so
mm-hmm,
when we're ready to do the show, there's always invariably a production
mm,
assistant who's brand new to the business standing there. And I'm like, what are you about? Tell me what you're about. What do you want to do? Because I know you don't want to do this forever. And so that kind of happened. And then I'd have young people coming to my desk and saying, hey, I want to be a reporter. I put together this reel. Can you look at it? And I
mm.
realized one day, my reel isn't done. And your reel looks great. And so does yours. And so does yours. And so I thought, I need to start doing this. Like, I'm really good at this. And this needs to
Mm-hmm.
be a business. And I went in and I asked my boss, who was on his way out, like he was ready to retire, and he did not care. He was like, yeah, Debra, I don't care what you do. Go ahead. If you want to start a business, I don't care. And that's very uncommon for people in the TV news business. Local news bosses are not going to let you go start some side business. But he was cool. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, cool. I don't care. And I was like, excellent. So I started charging people to look at their reels. And, my clients got jobs. It was amazing. So that
Wow.
was the beginning. And I did that for a good 2 years, just kind of here and there, never telling anyone or like making a website or anything, just doing that and charging people. And, they would Venmo me, and that was it. But then later on, I left my job, and that's a whole story in and of itself. I was
So,
a
so
weekend
I
intern.
know I'm interrupting you, but I just have to
Oh,
get the
please.
timeline here. So what year was this when you went in your boss's office and you were like, hey, I'm going to start a side hustle. Is that cool with you? And he's like, whatever.
He was like, whatever, in about 2015.
Okay. So then you and I met 4 years later.
Yeah,
So
about 4 years later.
we met in 2019 through various like networking in DC. I remember I put out like a sort of casting call for women entrepreneurs for a photo shoot. And then I had never gotten your email. And then I found it. And then I reached out to you. And then you had an event and I went to your event. And so we
Right.
just kept crossing paths. And then you started going through our coach training certification in 2019. So, you've got this successful TV career, you've started dabbling in coaching. And then at some point you're like, I want to get more serious about this, right? I really love this. And, I know the TV business can be crazy. So share with us a little bit more about that. What made you want to, I don't know if you want to say go all in but go more
Yeah,
in on your
invest.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
invest in your business and learn, because coaching is one thing. Telling people, oh, I like your reel, let me change this, I would change that. But going through coach training is a whole other thing. And I learned so much going through that. So just to go back a little bit, I was working at a channel, CBS station, a local channel here in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? The thing about the TV news business is you're either up or you're down. They either like you or they don't. And
Mm,
I was doing great. That boss who said, yeah, sure, Debra, start your side business. I don't care. Well, he left. And then
mm-hmm.
another boss came in, and suddenly my fortunes changed. And
Mm,
was I the same person? Absolutely. But someone else comes in and they don't really like you. So I was going to be demoted. And that's when I thought, I have given TV news my
wow.
weekends, my holidays. I haven't seen my family. I have a weird schedule. It's hard to meet like a partner. I mean, I gave a lot. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
nah, I'm out. I'm investing in me. I just realized I'd given so much for this dream that wasn't fulfilling me. And so when he made a move to demote me, I was like, you know what? I'm out at the end of my contract. And it was the most soul filling year of my life when I stopped that and really started to learn my business. I mean, I had to learn everything from not just coaching, but website development, marketing, digital marketing, MailChimp, email marketing,
Mm-hmm.
social media, you name it. I learned it from the ground up and I loved it. But when it was just like the world was meant to be that I met you, because I still obviously use so much from that coach training. I learned so many things, even just how to form a question, how to shut up and let somebody else
Well,
talk.
this is funny. And I want to just poke fun at this for a second because it's like so real and it's a big thing for people that come into coach training. And it's a big thing. It was a big thing for me when I started coaching back in 2013. And I think like, you were telling me, I don't remember exactly how it went down, but I know that you were telling me some of what you've been doing and you're like, I've been coaching. And I remember saying something to you like, Debra, I don't think you're coaching, you're consulting people. Like
Yes.
you're advising them on their reels. Like that actually isn't coaching. And you were probably like, who is this girl? Right. Like trying to tell me what's up. But but it's just an important distinction. I think it's a great place in the conversation to make this distinction because so many of us growing up, we were the people that came to us for advice and we felt this pressure to have answers for people, right? Should I break up with my boyfriend? Should I take this job? What do I say to my jerk boss? Like, should I do this? How do you do this? What purse should I buy? What about lipstick? Like, and that's such a draw to that's one of the big things I think that draws people to you is that you just sort of like have so much knowledge and it's clear that you've like had a lot of experiences and like, your shit, right? Like, where to get the clothes, how to do the makeup. Like, Deborah's like working this crazy schedule. I'm like, when did you wake up? Like your makeup is flawless. I'm like, did someone come to your house and do it? Like, no, you just do that yourself,
And this hair is 3 days old, but I know how to keep it. I know how to put it on top of my head so that when I sleep, it doesn't get messed up.
Right. You're just good at life, right? And
Oh,
so a lot of times when we're not that we have every area of our lives together, that things are always perfect by any means, couldn't be farther from that. But when you're someone who people look up to because you're a natural leader, because have figured out certain aspects of life and you wear that well, people do come to you, right? But the reality is that coaching as an art is a different thing than consulting, and you can weave them together really, really beautifully. But what I love about coaching, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Debra, is that I think a lot of times coaching, when you really learn how to do it and you ingrain it as a skill set separate from consulting or advising, it makes things easier because it takes some of the pressure off of you to have all of the
yes.
answers. And the reality is like the questions can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So let me just give you guys an example because a lot of our listeners are people who are, upcoming coaches or aspiring coaches or are interested in coaching, or they're new in coaching and just starting to go through training, whether it's ours or a different training. And so, if let's say I go to Debra and I'm like, how like I want to learn more about how to have a bigger voice in the world. She could go two ways. She could either start listing out a ton of ideas and say, well, I notice on social media you talk about your book, but you don't talk about your book a lot, or you could do this, or she could give me a ton of ideas. Or she could first respond with a question and ask me something like, well, Katie, what do you feel is in your way? And I'm a stand for coaching, right? So I feel at some points advising or giving examples is really beneficial to clients to help them move forward faster. But my belief is that we don't know the answers that are right for someone else necessarily. So I'm curious if you're open to sharing, how did learning more about what coaching is and what coaching isn't, and weaving more of that into your approach in your business, maybe take some of the heavy lifting off of you? Did you see any different results for your clients? Any of that?
Absolutely. And the one thing that is stuck in my head is a question I've asked to people. Because a lot of times they come to me and they say, how do I be more confident? How do I be more confident on camera? People tell me I need more confidence. And that can be for anyone. You could be a journalist, in a small market, or you could just be a person.
Anybody.
And so what I will do is ask them, well, where does this show up in your life other than this?
Right.
And that's the question that opens up. Well, I've never been confident because of blank. Well, tell me more about that. And how does that shape your life today? I'm asking questions that people are living an unexamined life a lot of times. If you've not been through it and you haven't been through therapy, which I've been through it all, and I think that's what helps me at this point. From therapy to Landmark to coach training to books and self-help books to all sorts of retreats. If you're not examining your life, then you're not really seeing how baggage you might have or experiences you might have, maybe shaping who you are today. And so you're right. I used to have a session with someone and I would tell them what I thought. Okay, well, that's great, but that doesn't really help. If you're coming to me with, how do I be more confident on camera? And I'm saying, well, you need to stand this way. You need to do that. I'm not getting to what's really in there.
Right. Like the root of it for that person. Like that's where we can really, I always feel like coaching is like an excavation. You're like peeling back the layers and digging, and we're kind of turning up these different rocks along the way and like finding these little bits of gold that end up unlocking people's lives. And let me ask you this too. So, you have a niche in coaching. Like I would say you have quite a specific niche, right? So for those of you guys who don't know what that means, you can go two ways with coaching. You can go really, really broad, like I'm a life coach or I'm a business coach, and there's a lot that can fall under those areas. Or you can go more specific. And I don't know if you would call yourself like a visibility coach or, but you definitely are coaching people in a specific field a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's who I'm being while I'm also doing the job that attracts those clients to me. So if you're an on-air journalist in a local news market, from Paducah, Kentucky to New York City, you might want to work with me. And they see me every day on TV. I mean, it's amazing when my clients are like, oh my God, look. And I get a cute picture they've snapped of me on whatever their TV in their newsroom. So they get to see me. And then, what also is really cute is that one woman, she woke up, she turned on the TV, she saw me and she's like, I knew you were speaking to me. Like I knew you would say to me, listen, get your ass out of bed and go do this thing. And so it's cute, that they feel this way, like, oh, like there she is. It's a reminder, like go for it. They know what I stand for and I stand for them. So yeah, it's a specific niche, but these things can be, other people can absolutely avail themselves of my coaching. It just happens to be that I've got this expertise in that area.
Right. But I want to hear how it looks for you, but I would imagine that a lot of times the conversations probably go into other places. Like we start talking about my visibility on camera or why I'm not pitching my own stories. And then we get to maybe issues with my husband or something from childhood or stuff with parents. I mean, obviously I don't want you to share anything specific. That wouldn't be ethical, but like generally, does that happen?
I have a text right here. And she says, my one client, you better put your dating advice in your book, because sometimes I'll write a post that has nothing to do with what I do. And people want to know, oh, so you dated a bunch of losers for a long time. And then you finally figured out, what was holding you back and what was keeping me in these, cookie cutter relationships. To say, I always said I dated the same guy over and over, just a different shirt. And then when I met my husband, why that was different? Well, I was different. They want to know that stuff. And, it gets into other things because I'm very open and transparent. And obviously, I have to connect with the client and they have to want to tell me things and I have to want to tell them things. But a lot of times we realize we have similar situations growing up, and I can talk to them about that because I have become, as we say, complete with some of the things that have happened in my life, in my childhood. Right. And I want to help them to explore how to do that. I can't help you. I'm not a therapist, but I can tell you what I've done and encourage you to think of some ways that you could do it too.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
From hair to dating to, childhood
Well,
traumas. I mean, you name it, it comes up.
and like someone asked me the other day who is, thinking about going through our coach training, she asked me my opinion on going through a more niche program versus going through a more general program. And I said, like, look, like obviously I run a more generalized, broader life coaching program. We teach you how to coach anyone around anything. And I said, so many of our students niche, like they have a background or a past life where they've learned so much about health, about marketing, about visibility, about TV report, about whatever, and they want to specialize in that area. But 9 times out of 10, the topic at hand isn't just about the topic at hand. It connects to something else. And so I personally feel it's so important for us to know how to weave within all of these conversations with our clients. And I think that you do such a beautiful job of that.
I appreciate that so much. I would not be the coach I am today if I did not meet you. And I'm telling you, it was just so fortuitous. I mean, randomly here and there, we missed each other and then we connected. And it was really a very important time in my life to go through that coach training. I learned so much. I took copious notes. I have a notebook that I keep near me because every once in a while I do get into a situation with a client where I'm like, they're not responding. Maybe I'm not asking the right question. And then you find the question and
Right.
unlocks everything. But it really helped me to not work. Like you said, you work so hard when you're consulting. You're coming up with all these different things.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It really is a true level of listening that I needed to learn how to do. I did all these things. I've got those awards behind me. It's not that. It's about learning something new. And I say to my clients, you're going to experience a transformation. And it's not that you need to learn something new, it's that you need to allow something to be. And that's what happens in the coaching, is that I ask a question, something unlocks, and boom, you're in a new level. It's like it's a transformation. And once they get it, you can't take it away. So I think the coach training that I went through helped me in so many ways. I don't work as hard. I could maybe say now I'm at a point where I could say maybe like 4 sentences and that's it because I'm asking the right questions. And that's also being a journalist, right? Because a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I'm not getting, people to really open up and talk to me. Well, who are you being when you're asking those questions on camera of your interview subject? Whether it be the mayor or it be, just a person on the street who you're asking about gas prices. There's a way of asking. And I realized that in my career, but I didn't realize that in coaching until I took the coach training.
Interesting. That's cool. A lot of parallels there.
Totally.
So for people who are listening, who are thinking about, how to take coaching and weave in their interests, I think it's always great to hear examples of like what people's lives look like and having various streams of income and what that might look like for them. So you have, you work as a reporter, right? Then you have private clients. You've got a mastermind going.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's when I tell you all the things I'm doing, your head is going to spin, but I've figured out a way to kind of make it work. And this year is a big year for me. I look back, and I think you always have to look back at the end of the year and see what your year looked like, right? Because if you don't look back, you don't know how to plan. And this year, I, looking at revenue, made as much as I did reporting as I did in my business. And that is huge for me. And so I spend probably half the time reporting for CBS stations. And then my business, what I did was, and this again is a result of talking to you, Katie. Gosh, I have to bring it back to you because there was a moment, and everyone who's going through coach training or coaching will at some point get overloaded because life. And so I was overloaded at a certain point, told you about what my business looked like, and you helped me shape it into one thing. I was doing all sorts of coaching. I had 3 different programs. I have 1 program now, and you helped me define that. So I have what I call the membership. And if you are a journalist, you join the membership. It's us. And by the way, people don't realize this, but TV reporters don't make a lot of money when they start out. So it's got a low price for every month, you pay and you're part of this membership. You get access to me, but really we do Zooms once a week. That's the main thing that I do. So I have to prepare 1 hour for all of my clients. They get to
Mhm.
watch it. If they can't be on it. They can watch it back later. And that's what I have now, the membership. And through there, they can purchase one-on-one sessions at a discounted rate, but you got to be part of the membership. You have to invest
Mhm.
in yourself and be part of the squad. And incredible things have happened in that people have become best friends. I get pictures where two people who didn't
Hanging
even know
out.
each other are like on a vacation somewhere. I'm like, what? I've had clients who are like, I'm driving to my new station. I just got a new job. And I'm like, oh, you're going to be passing my town. Come by.
Mhm.
It's been incredible. And I get to meet people in person, but it used to be crazy. And now I've made it simple because you said to me, well, what do you like about your business? What do you not like about your business? And nobody had asked me that. I was
Mhm.
just doing all the things. So now I do this one thing, the membership. It has a stream of income that comes in every month. There's additional when people buy sessions.
Mhm.
And that's what my business looks like. In addition, I'm writing the book, and in addition, I'm going to be launching the podcast, but that's all gravy. These are the two
Yeah.
things.
I think one thing that I just want to kind of tweeze out and repeat again here is like, so when Deborah and I were talking, one of the things that she was saying, you were saying, was that you wanted to be able to serve a specific market, but you didn't want to make yourself inaccessible to them. And this is a challenge that a lot of us as coaches and business owners have, is that we want to have premier pricing for our services. We want to be paid well for the work that we do, but there's a specific market that we want to reach, and we don't want to make ourselves inaccessible to them. We want to have these tiers of access, right? And so what you've done so beautifully is created this group membership where people can get individual access to you, but they're not paying these one-on-one prices. They're paying the group rate. But then at the same time, it's not exhausting you. Like, you're not over giving. And so one of the things that, is so important as you're building a coaching business, I feel, is creating tiers of access, things that people can actually get access to for free, right? Content. There's a lot that you put out there, Deborah, for free. You give a lot for free to the world. Even just
Absolutely.
sharing, your little videos in the bathroom in between your shots to say how your day is going and be transparent and let people get behind the veil, right? Like, that's all free work, free content. There's downloads on your website that you can get for free. And then there's like, lower access points, mid, and then higher access. And so, wherever someone is in their career, they can find a way to work with you. They can find something that is the cost of a latte or the cost of a dinner, or right. And they can say, okay, how do I make this work for myself? And I just felt that it was so, you're such a heart driven person, hardworking, committed, but also really, from my perspective, like driven by your heart. And a lot of times what happens to us when we're like that is we overgive. And so if you're listening and you're like, you've been working on your business, or you're trying to think about how you would make all this work, and some of the people that you want to serve, you don't think are going to be able to afford certain levels. One, you don't necessarily know that. And some of that might be, working on money mindset, and both for you, and then being able to coach your clients through it. And we go through that in training. But another part is like, strategically speaking, being able to have different tiers of access, because we want to be able to be of service. And we have, not everything is just, oh, like we have to convince this person that it's worth it for $500. Like, it might not make sense for them right now. And so what other ways can we work with these people and systemize it and scale it so that we're not exhausting ourselves, and that it makes sense for both parties?
I was exhausting myself. I mean, I was giving so much, and there's okay, we all know the saying. We all know the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Sure.
Got it. That's very important. No, like, my cup was so empty, it was ridiculous. And by the way, I will say this to anyone who's a coach: if you keep giving and not, and you're giving for free, you're giving and you're not being paid for it, you're just giving, 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 you're going to get mad. Okay. You're going to end up being a
Right.
little
Resentful.
resentful. And resentment is not a great quality. And you know who that's on? That's on you, because you didn't set your boundary. And so I was not setting my boundary. And as a result, I was getting resentful. Like I would literally get a client and go, like make a deep sigh, because I was like, how am I going to do this? My business didn't work for me.
Right.
It just didn't. And I was charging a lot of money for one-on-one coaching, but then it was taking a lot of me.
Right.
And this just works for me. And it all was because, again, going back to coach training, you asked me the questions. And I remember I have it written down. I saw it. What do you like about your business? What do you not like? You asked me those questions and I wrote it down. Like I found the note just the other day. And I was like, well, I love talking to my clients. I love helping them. I do not love not getting paid. And I do not love being exhausted. And so we came up with this. And you even said to me, because I said, they don't have money. And you're like, well, how do you know that? You know, and so this works for me. Mm-hmm. It's a low amount. It's not that much money, but you have to invest in yourself. If you don't have $29 a month, which is what I'm charging, like then you don't get. You have to invest in yourself. That's the other thing, is that I don't answer people's questions for free all the time. Like I try to help for free when I can, but if you can't invest in yourself, if you're not going to do that, then maybe you're not in the mindset of knowing that you're worthy to be invested in, and you're not ready to do the work. Getting some free advice that you didn't invest in, it may not hit you, may not sink in for you.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it works now. And you know, my clients get results. I mean, I know it's kind of weird because if you're not in the TV news industry, you don't know this kind of measure, but we call them TV markets. So mm-hmm. New York is number one, has the mm-hmm. most viewers. I think DC is like 6 or 7. So my clients jump markets, like they get new jobs. And what happens is, you know, they jump markets. So you go from market 50 to market from market 50 to market 1, let's say, or from market 150 to market 82. So my clients have jumped more than 3,000 markets since I started this. And it's incredible, but that's just one measure.
That's
when
cool.
when they say, I asked for that thing and, you know, I didn't get it, but I felt heard.
Yeah.
That's off too.
Okay. So I want to actually talk about this. One of the things you talk about a lot is making the ask. And yes. You have made a lot of asks in your reporting career. I think there's like 2 in particular that are standout moments for you. Can you tell us about some of those?
Yes, I talk about asking all the time. Asking is uncomfortable. Asking will get you out of your comfort zone and do it anyway, because that's how you grow. That's how you build your life. I was sitting at home watching 48 Hours a long time ago, was not working in TV news, was working on Wall Street. But I knew that wasn't for me. Like this was just as, you know, out of school, like don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, oh, I'll take this job. But I knew I wanted to tell stories. I'm watching this show and I'm like, wow, that is a really cool show. I really like this. I want to be like that person. Like this is as simple as it gets. I saw something, wanted it, and then looked at the credits and thought, okay, well, that person's name came last. They must be really important. Picked up the phone and called and asked to speak to them. And so this, like, what am I thinking? But it was 48 Hours, which is a CBS production. And I called the executive producer and just asked. I mean, I don't know that I realized what I was doing. I think I just was naive. That's fine. I asked, I would love to do that thing that, you know, I would love to be on this show. Like, could I ask you about it? Could I meet with you? Like, I would love to find out more about this. Lo and behold, this woman actually invites me into CBS News in New York City. I was living in New York at the time. And I go in, like, I'm like, what is this place? She shows me around. I get to see all these like big offices of like people whose names we know. I'm like, what is this? She was so kind and incredibly generous. I had no business being there. We kept in touch over the years, and I did get into the industry. I was working in Wall Street, and then I ended up starting out at the bottom, working my way up. Along the way, I emailed her, and you know, we kept in touch. Fast forward to about 2019, when I met you, because I was, at the time that I met you, going through coach training, and I was not working in TV news, but I was coaching my clients. One woman in particular who I'm coaching, she wanted this job, and I was coaching her to ask for it. Okay. That night I go to sleep, I wake up in the morning and I get the news that that woman who was my mentor for all these years is now the head of CBS News. And her name is Susan Zirinsky. We call her Z lovingly. That's her nickname, Z. So Z is incredible. You can Google Z and you will read incredible articles about her, but she is one cool lady. I text her, I'm like, oh my God, you're going to be the head of CBS News. This is amazing. Go women, but 100 emojis, to which she laughs, and that's it. And I realized later that day, I didn't ask her for a job. Meanwhile, I am telling my clients to ask for jobs, but I didn't. And that was an aha moment for me. So I went back to my phone and said, if you need another soldier in your army, I am here. Now, all she did at that point was send my email over to the talent person. I had to fight like hell to get in. I got one interview, and then the next person who I was supposed to talk to never got back to me. 8 emails later, I'm not kidding. Like, that takes a lot of fortitude to go through 8 more emails. Kept asking. Then I said, I'll be there Tuesday at noon. I could bring you a coffee. Maybe we could, talk for 15 minutes. And she bit. And I was like, damn, now I got to go book a bus to get to New York. Cause I didn't have a lot of money in those days. I was like, okay, guess I'm going to be taking the bus. And I made sure I was there. And lo and behold, I ended up getting this opportunity. And it's just a freelance opportunity to fill in here for their news path division. But I've built it up to doing so many different things because, again, I asked. So those are my 2 asks. I'm 15 years apart to the same person. But if I didn't do it, I would never be here. And so you might not know who to ask. Just keep asking. I just asked a random person that I saw their name on my TV screen in my apartment when I had no business asking. Imagine the asks and the things that you can build in your career if you start your asking now.
I love that. That's so powerful. I'm just like, you guys can't see me, but I'm just like sitting here smiling ear to ear as Debra's telling the story, because it's so full of hope and it just gives us all so many ideas. And it also really demonstrates how you've been able to take the principles of coaching and growth and personal development and challenging yourself and getting outside of your comfort zone and apply them to your business, to your news career, and just to your advancement as a woman and as a person. And I also love the little part of the story where you were telling your client to ask, and then you kind of like turned around and looked in the mirror and you're like, but I'm not asking. And I think that one thing I love about being a coach is those accountability moments where, someone's coming to us about something. And again, we're not consultants. We're not positioning ourselves as the expert of all. So we don't have to have all the answers, but we do, through the power of asking questions, like start to ask ourselves the same questions and say like, well, am I actually practicing what I'm preaching? And those self-coaching moments are so, so powerful too.
Absolutely. I have to ask myself all the time, well, where else does this show up in your life, Debra? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So last thing, you talk about getting out of your own way. How have you done that? And how do you advise others to do the same?
So I have come up with a very simple worksheet, and it's, I go all over the place and talk about this. I have presented this to American Express. I've gone to conferences, and it's got a cheeky name. It's the GTFO worksheet. You got to get the beep out of your own way, really. And it takes, again, just a couple of minutes of examining, right? Sometimes we don't examine our thoughts. And I truly believe that our thoughts either help us get where we want to go, or they stand in our damn way like a brick wall. So the G stands for getting real. And by the way, there is some Katie in this because everything I do has some Katie, and I'll get there. But the G is get real. What are you really thinking about yourself that is standing in your damn way? And for me, my labels that stand in my way are, oh, well, there's something wrong with you. We all have some kind of something that holds us back. You're too old. That's another thing. It could be for someone else, you're too young. And I've had that too, by the way. Some of my clients have said that. We all have something. And of course, being a high school dropout, I've got my baggage. So there are things that I say about myself. I have to get real about those and write them down so I can look them in the face and get real with it and go, is this really true? And honestly, they're not true. They're just ideas. So then T is for triumphs. And that's the most powerful one, in my opinion, because you write down all of the things that you really did do.
Mm-hmm.
So the G, the get real, all those things, that's not true. The triumphs are real. That Emmy is real.
Mm-hmm.
Did I create this career? That's real. Did I go through coach training? And that is real. Did I have this revenue? That is real. Was I there for my mom when she was sick last year? That's real. So you list all that out, and it's pages on pages. You could really list out all the amazing accomplishments you have. Okay. Next is F, freedom to choose. What are the labels you'd like to have? And so when I was working with you, I really wanted to be a best-selling author, and I still do want to be a best-selling author, multi-million-dollar business owner. I'm working on these, but these are the labels that I have chosen. And here's where Katie comes in. Oh, own it. If you were that multi-million-dollar business owner or best-selling author, what would you do? Who would you call? What would you put on? How would you dress? How would you show up in the world? And really, Katie, you've helped me because that comes from you. Owning it comes from you. You taught me that. And as I'm writing this book, I'm sitting here writing it in a vacuum going, I don't really know how to do this. Okay, well, that's not an excuse. Learn how to do it. So what I did was I thought, if I'm an author, what would I do? I would invest in a book coach. I would go and see, like, maybe I could talk to this person or talk to that person, or I would figure out, how do I get an agent? And so it has, again, prompted me to ask. And so I've had amazing calls with people who I have no business talking to. Just randomly said, hey, person at Simon & Schuster, would you do a Zoom call with me? I had no business asking them. Lo and behold, this one was like, sure, I'd love to mentor you. You don't know until you ask. And so I have to take myself seriously. But I can't be the girl who's sitting at my desk in my pajamas writing a book. No, that's not owning it. Owning it is making that call and saying, I've got an amazing story that's worthy of the world reading it. Can I talk?
Yeah. And maybe there are moments where we're sitting in our pajamas writing, right? But it's like, we have to, like, not just be the part, but do the part, not just do the part, but be the part, continually up level, not take no for an answer, not get attached to the closed doors. Right. Like, that's why I think sales training is so expensive, so important, because we have to be willing to put ourselves out there and not care so much about every single result. I was like, this is like a good parallel, but I was coaching one of my friends around dating. And I'm like, if someone's like decent looking, just like swipe right, like, who cares? Like, no one's going to know. Right. And let's just increase your chances of getting more matches. Right. So whether it's in business or in dating, the goal is to get more matches, get more yeses, get more opportunities. And the only way we can do that is by casting a wide net. If you sit there twiddling your thumbs and, doing all this research about this one person you're going to reach out to and making it mean so much, and then making it something about who you are and your identity. And no, that's not the point here. The point is to get out of our own way, like you said.
Yes. Yeah. And attachment. Ooh, is that a killer? Right?
Yeah.
Getting attached to the outcome, how it's supposed to look.
Right.
That paralyzes people.
Any like big author, or like, if you really listen to people's stories, you will find that they faced so much rejection, and you have to just get comfortable with that. So whether you're, doing sales in your coaching business, or you're going to acting auditions, or you're trying to become a reporter when you have no experience, or you're trying to get a major publisher to publish your book, and you're a brand new author, you're certainly not going to get it if you don't try. So,
and you're going to get a lot of no's.
Right.
I mean, but how about all the great people who've had so many no's? Come
That's
on.
what I'm saying.
Told no.
Well, have you read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
No.
I think
my book club.
You would really like it. I'm listening to it right now. I always have books that I'm reading because I like read before I go to bed. And then I have books that I'm listening to because I like to listen when I'm driving or like at the gym. It distracts me from the fact that I'm at the gym. So anyways, I started listening to Big Magic, and Elizabeth Gilbert's, I know you know this, but for those who don't, Elizabeth Gilbert's the author of Eat, Pray, Love, which became, huge. And Julia Roberts ended up playing her in a major, major movie. And she just talks about like how that wasn't in any of her plans. Like she had no idea any of that was going to happen. And she's super real and super humble. And I love hearing from her, but she talks about the piles and piles and piles of rejection letters that she got along the way, and just how much time it took her to get some actual attention. And she's like, I didn't really care because I was doing it for the love of it. And she says this thing over and over again, which she's like, people in my family live to like the hundreds. So I figured, she said, every time I got a letter of rejection, my way of like kind of throwing it back at them, or, energetically, was to throw something else back out there. So if I got a rejection letter, I would just send out, more pitches, not even to them necessarily, but I would play this game with the universe of like ping pong a little bit. And she's like, I figured the joke was on them because people in my family live to be 100. I don't care at what point, I wasn't attached to a certain age of quote unquote becoming successful. I just figured I'm going to do this before I die. She's like, but the joke was on them because, people in my family live to be 100 years old. So, and it's just so interesting to hear her thinking. And it's like, if you let yourself think like that, it takes a lot of the pressure off. And also she was working the whole time. She was working as a bartender. She was working in various jobs that were not these hugely celebrated jobs in the world, but they helped her make ends meet so that she could do the work she loved. And she was writing because she loved it.
And that's just the power of thinking differently. So we get stuck in our thinking. It has to look like this. I have to do this. Oh, and I have to do this before I'm 30. I have to do that before I'm 40. Oh, I'm
so
getting to be
silly.
30. Yeah. And that's a construct that lives on in your head, not your head, but you know what I mean? Like in the person's head, like you created that. So guess what? You can break that. Yeah. And I had to break that many times. And that's why I try to really, when I coach people, they're like, well, why do you think that? Well, why is that what you want?
Where does that come from?
Yeah, because we just stand in our own damn way. Gosh, I love Elizabeth Gilbert. She's incredible. I saw her at one of Oprah's Life You Want to Live weekend. I don't even know what it was called. One of those like everything is awesome weekends. Yeah. And she really knows that. Oh, I love that you shared that. Thank you. Because now that's what I'm downloading on Audible after this. Thank you.
It's good.
I love it.
Debra, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing so much of your wisdom. Thank you for being so honest and vulnerable and transparent. You really just have such a beautiful story, and you're plugged into a lot of different worlds, and you bring so much value to all of us. Any area of our lives where we're looking to go bigger and be more real and have more of a voice, we can learn so much from you. So if we want to keep hanging out with you, where can we find you on the internet?
I am always on Instagram. I don't know why, but I'm always on Instagram. I'm always on TikTok, and it's under my name, Debra Alfarone. And, everything I do, all the content I put together, I'm on YouTube as well. It's all rooted in, listen, I'm a high school dropout. If I can go report at the White House, you can do anything. If I can do this, you can do anything. And I'm here for you.
I love it. So good.
Thank
you so much for joining us.
Mwah.
Mwah.